So again here, understanding the data and the touch points with the customer journey, and then bringing out to actually saying, how can we use this in retail or in hospitality industry? And they have some amazing examples as well. So the more we go towards advanced technology platforms, again, as we discussed a few minutes ago as well, I think it's more relevant to understand that customer journey, and of course, using data for the right reasons and ethically. But when you actually do that, I think sky's the limit of what sort of solutions which we can provide. And in that sense, it's an absolute app right now as far as where the world is going, where the industry is going, and a huge scope for everyone to explore and use it for the right reasons.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. This is your host Neha at peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view, integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Codie Award for HCM that's specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and channel that receives more than 200,000 visitors a year, and we also publish several interviews with well-known names globally every month. I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome today Sid Godbole, the Managing Director at Bucephalus Consulting Limited, a well-known business consulting firm that offers innovative solutions for resilience, growth, and business transformation, as well as post-consulting. Senior Enterprise Innovation and a Transformation Executive with over 22 years in B2C and B2B across engineering, BPO, housing, and technology. We're very thrilled to have Sid with us today. He's a first-class in-country cricket player and a level 2 cricket coach. He identifies himself as a thought leader with proven experience in transforming operational landscapes and performance of management tiers, SME owners, and cricket players. He leads on the deployment of product, people, process, and technology-driven innovation to drive growth, revenue generation, as well as asset transformation. So we're very happy to have you with us today, Sid.
Thank you so much, Neha, for having me on this forum as well. And it's the amazing work which peopleHum is doing. So I'm really glad to be part of it.
Thank you. Very glad to have you here. So let's start with the interview. So
Sure.
the first question that I want to ask you is, I see that you have over 22 years of experience in engineering, BPO, housing, and technology. So that seems like a very varied set of things to have done in a career. So I can imagine that it has been a very rich experience. So could you tell our audience a little more about that?
Yes, absolutely, Sneha. I mean, this has been enriching. This has been really value-added experience as well. Before going to the experience, I'll quickly go through my background as well. So I'm an industrial engineer as my core qualification, and industrial engineering is that discipline of engineering which improves efficiency, whether it's operational efficiency, whether it's product efficiency. So with that background in mind, I've had 5 years in India in the engineering sector. And for the last 17 years in UK, in London, through the BPO, through the housing, to the technology sectors as well. So the cross-border experience, of course, makes a huge difference because you're part of different environments, you're part of different domains as well. So the word you use, enriching, that's really meaningful and powerful here because when you work across different domains, you see products and services and people from different perspectives. And clearly that adds value to your knowledge and the work which you're doing as well. So that's the first point in terms of the journey. The second one is, even if the domains have been different, you can imagine at a very broad level, all these organizations are looking for 3 key things. Either they are looking to grow their business, their product lines, their service lines, or they're trying to make sure the P&Ls are worked out better in terms of increase in revenue, or it could be really asset transformation. So in terms of people, product, process, and technology. So when you look at that at a very broad level, then whether it's engineering and looking at production of special purpose cooling machines, or whether it's BPO, whether it's outsourced contracts, or it's housing where you're building homes for people from different economic backgrounds. So you always talk about having growth, revenue generation, and asset transformation. So in that sense, it's varied over 22 years, but it touches upon the 3 key elements for any business. And finally, the varied experience, of course, helps when organizations are looking for business consultants or mentors, because then the sort of knowledge you have had that plays a huge part when you're trying to consult organizations or understand what they want to go through and how they can be helped as well. So that's in a nutshell what the 22 years have been, but really enriching experience.
Yes, I can absolutely imagine that it's been a very enriching experience, and I'm sure that you've also gained a lot of insights. I'm really excited about talking to you about that during this interview. So the second question that I want to ask you is that you've mentioned that you hold expertise in product, people, process, and technology-driven innovation. So what has that journey been like, and how would you say that it's the future of work?
So again, the answer has two parts. The first one is about the journey, and through industrial engineering lenses, you start looking at any product and efficiency. But then very early on in my career as well, I realized that how it touches upon a number of other factors which are equally important for an organization. And just as a small example, if you look at product, then any product an organization wants to improve upon its product features, or if they want to add a new feature, or if they want to expand it. Whilst doing that, there are processes involved in order to improve product features or come up with a new one. Equally, then there are processes involved in engaging with the end users. There might be B2B customers, there might be B2C customers. So processes involved there, as you can imagine. People are involved in terms of producing that particular product or service, and then of course engaging with the end users as well. And as we are coming into the technologically advanced eras, then of course technology is involved, because we are trying to promote those products and services and its uses through technology. So when you look at the product, people, process, technology, I think those are the four key pillars of any innovative organization who want to come up with new features, new products, and new services as well. So I realized that very early on, and mainly when I started working in London. And once an organization starts looking on either of those, you always find the rest are also connected. So in that sense, the subject expertise is along those four. Sometimes it's standalone, but sometimes you have to look at all four. The second part of your question in terms of, what's the future of it? And as you can imagine, the more advanced technology we try to bring in, there are more innovative ways we are trying to either provide more service and on-the-spot service to the clients, or we are trying to get advanced technology, advanced products through the features. So every time you're trying to achieve that, again, a product is involved, a service is involved, process is involved, people are involved, and of course, technology is involved. So in that sense, it's an absolute must for any organization to look at all four pillars when they're trying to think of some form of innovation.
Right. So I feel like all of these are interconnected. And at the end of the day, even if it's pretty understandable that, each one of these holds a certain weight by themselves, it's important to consider all of them in connection and sort of move ahead with that in terms of, business success, basically.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. What are the top 3 things you would say about business consulting and mentoring based on your own experience?
So the first thing would be value as a proposition, and as a business consultant or as a mentor. It works both ways, right? So what value I'm adding or what value I'm bringing to the proposition. And I think it has to be quite tangible as well. It's not just concept, it's how it can translate into something which will help an organization or a mentee. So that's the first one, I think, which is quite powerful. And every time I have tried to establish that with a client or an organization, you can see the tangibility as well, because that's what we want to go, towards that as end result. The second one is the sustainability of whatever value you're adding. So is it a quick solution or is it something which will last for a long time? And while some situations mean that solution is a quick fix and a short term, but if it can be connected with a long-term proposition of how it will help organization develop over a period of time, or any of their features, then sustainability becomes the key element. And I think the third one, which very often people potentially forget, is the time element. Because in business consultancy or in mentoring, when you're trying to add value to someone, the time element and the patience element is on both sides, right? Because you're trying to create a solution, trying to add value, you're trying to measure it. And sometimes it does take time as well. So if organizations, and of course, people like me who are contributing as well, if they're mindful of the time element as well, then
Exactly.
the value, the sustainability, and the time are the three key elements as far as business consulting and mentoring is concerned.
I feel like that was a very well thought out answer, Sid. And that just goes to show that this is something that you've been doing for the past 22 years. And I can only imagine that, you've been gaining a lot of good out of that based on the concise way in which you just answered that question. So thank you for that insight. Moving on to the fourth question, could you tell us more about ProThink, your resilience and mental toughness improvement app? Can you tell us about its conception and the story of its success?
Absolutely. So ProThink stands for process thinking. And as you said in your introduction, that my background into first class cricket in India, and for the last 6 years, I've been a level 2 cricket coach. So throughout my playing career, as well as now, whether it's cricket coaching or corporate career, I've always worked really well with people and led teams, whether it was cricket team or corporate teams. And the idea was always to understand how the human mind actually works and how it can be used in order to improve performance. So I went throughout the early 2001 to 2008-9, did a lot of research and then combined that research in sports psychology and organization as well. And then and the idea is this is a tool whereby people focus more on the controllable factors in order to achieve a certain goal. And then they don't necessarily get triggered away with uncontrollable factors, what's happening around us, and what's happening in the environmental factors, the business factors, or even in sports, in the competition factors wise. So ProThink was launched in 2014 as a concept, and for 6 years I launched it in London in cricket as well as in corporates. And about a month ago now, it's a mobile app. So it is an app right now in cricket and in distance running. And the idea is people download the app and they go through a diagnostic question. It tells them what are their stronger areas and areas to improve upon as far as mental toughness and resilience is concerned. Then it creates an action plan for them. So it evaluates their objective, that how realistic their goals are. Then it creates an action plan for them. And everywhere we have introduced this resilience technique, that how can they focus on the right process at the right time? Because even in your world, my world, and sports world, we know that learning a skill and executing a skill are two different things. Absolutely. If you can execute a skill at the right time, irrespective of any event pressure, then we will always do well. And the ProThink is meant to do that. So now it's for cricket and distance running. The long-term vision of this app is we want to launch this for people who are unemployed and people who want to get back into business, because when I was working on BPO sector, that was one of the domains I worked for. And I've got a good understanding of that sector and that sort of mindset of people when they're not employed and how they can become employed. And then the third version of ProThink is for organizations. So we want to launch this for SMEs and medium scale organizations who may not necessarily have the right tools to work with their staff members and then help them deploy solutions so people can do better as well. So that's in a nutshell, this ProThink.
This is a very thoughtful idea for an app. And the way that you just mentioned that you're looking to expand it, I wish you all the success, because I personally find this idea very appealing. So that's really great. That's really great, Sid. On a passing note, could you tell us the scope of AI, what AI-enabled learning is, and how it can offer customized solutions to surveillance, retail, healthcare, manufacturing, and entertainment verticals?
So AI-enabled learning is exceptionally important from two perspectives. One is from HR's perspective, or learning and development's perspective. And one is from the actual product's perspective as well, for different domains, which you mentioned as well. And I'll give an example of how that's relevant in today's day and age as well. So until very recently, I was part of an international accelerator program helping advanced technology firms from India coming to UK or vice versa. And within that, I got introduced to a couple of exceptional founders and who are using AI or advanced technology algorithms in order to understand how it can help businesses or wider communities. So in that sense, AI-enabled learning is a good example where this particular firm, they are using their platform as a virtual learning platform. And it is helping organizations where there are peripatetic staff who are not at one place all the time, they're traveling. But how does their learning and development improve on various competencies, whether it's functional competencies, technical competencies, behavioral competencies? So when we talk about AI learning, having the data, right amount of data, and then understanding that data and providing a solution. So this particular firm in India, they have come up with a good solution, and the platform then creates all these paid or free training programs on the platform, which covers all these competencies, functional, behavioral, or technical. So that's one example of for AI-enabled learning. The second example is, again, another firm in India, and they were really about using CCTV as a smart surveillance solution. And so again, here, understanding the data and the touch points with a customer journey, and then bringing out to actually saying, how can we use this in retail or in hospitality industry? And they have some amazing examples as well. So the more we go towards advanced technology platforms, again, as we discussed a few minutes ago as well, I think it's more relevant to understand that customer journey. And of course, using data for the right reasons and ethically. But when you actually do that, I think sky's the limit of what sort of solutions which we can provide. And in that sense, it's an absolute app right now as far as where the world is going, where the industry is going, and a huge scope for everyone to explore and use it for the right reasons.
That's very interesting. So thank you, Sid, for speaking with us today. It was a great conversation, and it was very, very insightful. And I'm sure that our audience, our viewers and our listeners will agree with that. And I wish you and your business all the best.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Sneha. Thank you so much for inviting me. And as always, if there's anything I can do for your viewers and for peopleHum as well, just drop me a line and we can connect.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.